Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Lunenburg Select Board. Today is Tuesday, October the 24th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please.
Very well.
Nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt in this incident.
All right.
I got to practice my sitting skills.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel.
Lou?
on Facebook Live, on Public Access Facebook page, on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. We're going to start tonight with public comments. Do we have any public comments from the board this evening?
I have none.
I'm going to do this here and then maybe again at the end, but because I want to make sure it gets hit twice so that people hear it. The master plan, there'll be a first public, or a big public meeting on that on November 2nd at Smokestack Roasters, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. At which, it'll be sort of a kickoff. And also the website dedicated specifically to the master plan has gone live. It's planlunenburg.gov. It's a G-O-V, I think. Or is it it might be an O-R-G. I think it's O-R-G. It's O-R-G. So planlunenburg.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments from Selectman Imke?
No.
And Selectman Nuzzolo?
No public comment.
All right, we have a public comment this evening from the town manager.
Thank you. Last week I gave a presentation on the staffing shortages we're facing right now, including information on staffing levels by department, the reasons for staffing shortages, what we are doing to address filling these positions right now, what more we can do, and next steps. Parts of my presentation revolved around improving employee engagement, specifically focusing on recognition and appreciation of employees, managing expectations during these times that we are not fully staffed, and the number one issue we need to address is funding for wages and addressing future costs associated with insufficient staffing in certain departments. I want to make one correction to the information I presented, and that is for the seasonal cemetery annual estimated labor hours. It was overestimated. I had included 36 hours a week for 2 seasonal cemetery employees, and the actual in fiscal 23, when we were fully staffed, was 805 hours for the year, or roughly a total of 15.5 hours a week. Also, the staffing hours I presented do not account for holidays, vacation, personal, or sick time for any benefit-eligible positions. The DPW director and cemetery superintendent reviewed the total hours and how that time was split over the last year, and between the cemetery superintendent and the time worked by the seasonal staff that were employed from October 22 until October 23, they worked 2,431 hours in the past year, with an estimated 500 to 560 hours spent on mowing, which is an estimate. I have reviewed all the other estimates for the staffing levels, and they were accurate for this point in time. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with the employees at the DPW. Their concerns centered around wages, turnover of employees that are leaving because they can get paid more in private industry and higher wages in other towns, lack of equipment such as trucks and certain items that would make them more efficient at their jobs and a more professional department, and a lack of understanding for everything that they do. Almost all of them need to work a second job to make ends meet, and at least one depends on the food pantry to supplement feeding his family. Our highway crew which, since we are down 2 employees right now, consists of 2 heavy equipment operators and the highway superintendent, do it all, unlike other towns that have a stormwater division or tree removal division, or only operate heavy equipment all the time. There is a general feeling that residents and administration do not understand and appreciate the range of everything the highway department does. We depend on them to come in during flooding and snowstorm events when we have the worst weather possible to keep our roads safe and passable. They deal with stormwater issues, clear roadside vegetation, remove trees, fix roadside drainage issues, and help with repairing culverts. They assist the other DPW divisions of sewer and cemetery. They assist the school, address needs at the parks, help out with the facility staff, and any other department in town if needed, as they care about this town, as do all our employees. I can attest that other departments feel the same way. The DPW is an example of how our departments work together and how they care about what they do. They help each other out when needed, working as a team for the good of the town, as they care about the town. It is collectively our responsibility to care about them. We are fortunate to have the department heads we have that support the employees in their respective departments like they do. But that is not enough in itself. I need to use my voice, and the board needs to use their voice to support them. Everyone needs to better understand what all the employees in our town do to make Lunenburg a better place to live, work, and most importantly, make it a community we are proud to be part of. Something that was said to me, and I think rings true, in times like this, we tend to focus on the negative. What we tend not to think of is all the things that are going right. A lot is going right. An amazing amount of work gets done every day by our staff and through their efforts, even right now when we are short-staffed. We are all human, and we are all a work in progress. And there will always be ways we can improve and times to consider what we can do better. But we also need to focus on the positive, and right now is that time.
Thank you to the town manager for the public comments. Thank you for that clarification, that specific clarification as well. And I think those were some really encouraging words, so thank you. We're going to open to public comments from the public. Ms. Bertram.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to say thank you to the town manager. I want to thank you for coming to the DPW, for talking to everybody, and for the comments that you made tonight. I couldn't agree more. At last week's selectmen meeting, the board discussed this particular issue that the town manager just highlighted, the inability to hire people for open positions and the low morale of the staff. As both a current employee and a former employee, I can tell you that morale is very low. Employees are being asked to do more with less, and while everyone's level of responsibility has increased, their salary hasn't. Employees are leaving their roles in Lunenburg in order to earn a fair wage and to leave a contentious environment. Staff feels that they are not respected or appreciated. Most people do not have a true understanding of the work that every employee performs. Working at the DPW, I can tell you that the employees there are some of the hardest working people I've ever met. Years ago, there were 10 highway employees. We are now down to 3, not including the superintendent. As Heather just articulated, DPW employees are pulled in many different directions. Tree work, assisting with facilities, road maintenance, sewer and drainage, all of the things the town manager just highlighted. With 3 people, it is extremely difficult to keep up with everything. Yet these people make it happen and take pride in their work. Often, they're working without the tools they need to do a job efficiently. The town needs to invest in the basic tools needed, such as compressors, cement mixers, etc., so we can streamline the workload and work efficiently. The comments made last week by the chairperson are a clear example of why morale is so low. When discussing mowing at the cemeteries, the chair questioned why we pay for 3,900 hours of time when 600 hours of work is being done. As the town manager just articulated, those hours were incorrect. The hours that have been stated do not include vacations, holidays, winter days when the superintendent spends his time supporting the DPW staff with plowing and road maintenance. During the warmer months, the cemetery superintendent is responsible for much more than mowing. It is meeting with bereaved families, and I've seen that firsthand, and how he handles and is sympathetic to those families. Funeral directors, preparing graves, overseeing processions, completing burials, and coordinating the installation of monuments. The superintendent is also responsible for removing debris from the cemeteries, maintaining and entering information into the database, laying out plots, coordinating with vendors, assisting with the budget, and completing financial turnovers, and likely many other tasks that I haven't even mentioned. The continued oversimplification of employees' responsibility is very frustrating. Prior to making statements or judgments regarding the work of an employee, please understand the value that they bring to the table. Employees feel as if they're not being heard, and I will say that yesterday was the first step from the DPW perspective. The rating classification project the Personnel Board and HR are working on is also an example. Tonight at the Personnel Committee meeting, I was very pleased to hear that the committee is now encouraging employees to work with their supervisors if they don't agree with the classification and job descriptions that are being presented. Requesting time on the Personnel Board's agenda to engage in a discussion was not an option. Employees were told to make their comments during public comment. I'm glad to see that there was some movement in that tonight. In order to make sound decisions regarding wages and distribution of duties, it's vital that those making the decisions understand what every position entails. The direct supervisors of each position, along with the boards and commissions that the employee reports to, must be consulted and included in the decision-making process. Having served as a selectman, I understand that finances are always a concern. However, in order to retain employees, the pay rate must be commensurate with the work. In my opinion, this is far from the case in Lunenburg. I urge you to take a look at the salaries of Lunenburg employees in comparison to other communities. In order to fulfill positions, new employees are being hired at higher salaries than those who have been here for 20 years. This emphasizes that existing employees are not valued. These are people that have worked hard for Lunenburg and deserve better. I hope that town officials and those making the decisions regarding wages, job descriptions, classification, budgets, and workload take the time to listen to the employees that are performing the work. I hope that they take the time to fairly evaluate the current pay rates and address the inadequacies. It is time for boards, commissions, management, and employees to listen to each other, respect one another, and work collaboratively. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bertram, for your public comments. Do we have any additional public comments this evening? Ma'am.
Jean Russell, 80 West Street Terrace. I came this evening because I was very distressed with the comments made by the chairman last week. As a resident of this town, somebody who has a family member interred in North Cemetery, someone who walks their dog there, walks for exercise there, and has done so for the last 8 years, I know how that cemetery is maintained. I know what the superintendent does, just as I know from the school what the facilities people do. And to hear comments like that at a time when there is short staffing, I feel was not only ill-timed, but unfair. And so again, I would urge that in the future, more consideration is given to the people who work in this town and the jobs that they do and the effort that they put in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Do we have any additional public comments this evening?
Hello?
We'll get to you next, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Am I on? My name is Mark Feinberg. I've been a resident at Lunenburg for 38 years. My wife is in the South Cemetery, and she's been there for over 9 years. So I'm down there every day, and every day that I'm down there and I see Todd Holman, he's working his butt off down there, so I don't know what the issue is. So just want to let you know that I want to give you some input. What else? This is my first time here, and it'd be nice if you had closed caption on the TV. I'm hard of hearing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. Any additional public, Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, good evening, guys. First of all, I just want to say my name is Dave McDonald, 155 Island Road in Lunenburg. I've been dealing with the DPW for many years. I was part of their design coordination, and I was also the clerk of the works in addition. And I got to meet all these guys, and they're good guys. They work hard for the town of Lunenburg. They do a lot of extra stuff, and I give them the utmost respect, as well as all the other public servants. And to me, the DPW is one of the largest public servants. They're the ones who make sure the roads are clear for the fire trucks to get through, and for the ambulances to get through, and for the police to get through. So again, I have the highest regard for the DPW. Also, Bill, the DPW's director, he's a great guy, and he's working with what he has. But the reason I'm calling tonight is I just want to thank Heather. Finally, this is the Heather that we know. I'm glad you came out. I'm glad you see what's going on. There's a lot more, and you're going to find it this way, Heather. And I just want to thank you personally for what you're doing. And you know what? Together, we can fix this. We can get people to come and join jobs if it makes it a good working environment. So again, Heather, whatever you need, you just call and we'll help. But that's what we're here to do. But no more criticism. That's just crap. But thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any more? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't planning on needing the ambulance, but you almost had other plans for us. My name is Christos Lakadias. I'm the president of the Lunenburg Professional Firefighters. Tonight, I'd like to thank the town manager for the work that she put in to prepare the presentation that she delivered last week. Quite frankly, she hit the nail on the head. However, as you all begin to figure out how to tackle this issue, we cannot ignore the remaining departments within the town, the ones that are not considered short-staffed because all of their budgeted positions are filled. Some of these departments, in fact, should also be looked at as short-staffed, considering the excessive workload they incur and how they are constantly expected to do more with less. These departments face the same recruitment and retention issues outlined by the town manager, and in many of these departments, losing one or two people will drastically affect the department operations, specifically in the public safety departments. Comment was made that the town uses salary comparisons to make sure that the salaries of the town employees are average. While that is 100% true, it's no longer cutting it. Most of the time when salaries are being worked on or negotiated for our various town departments, the same is being done in our neighboring towns. Now what happens is our town ends up with salaries that are average for a very short time. It could be a year, it could be 6 months, or they could be obsolete and back at the bottom before we even approve them at town meeting, because all these other towns are giving their increases as well, and we're constantly playing a game of catch-up. Another comment was made regarding how detrimental losing a member of the town's leadership team would be, and to me, this also includes the department's heads in the public safety building. This is crucial to avoid, but realistically, it could happen, and in fact will happen in the not-so-distant future. Both department heads in the public safety building are nearing the end of their careers and can retire at any time. To make things worse, there are no succession plans in place. I'm a firm believer that promotions for these positions should come from within. However, both of these department heads are grossly underpaid for the work that they're expected to do compared to the other department heads in neighboring towns. I am confident because of this there will be no serious internal candidates for these positions. So, as with most job postings, applicants for these positions will come from outside. And if someone is willing to fill either of these positions for the current salary, I really hope it raises red flags with this board. I'm confident that this person would be a stepping stone in this position. At the end of the day, this is an incredible feat that must be undertaken, and I don't envy the town manager's job for a second. I just hope as the town manager attempts to right the ship regarding this issue, that she has the full backing of this board and the finance committee. I'm in my 18th year of employment with the town, and the same song has been sung for my entire tenure here. This is an issue that the town manager did not create, but unfairly inherited. Without your support, I don't see how she can be a successful fix in this, and we cannot allow this town to become a stepping stone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comments this evening from the public? Seeing none, I will go back to my board members to ask if there's any public comments again from the board.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So I guess the first thing I would say to the public comment of the town manager, my only comment would be a two-word comment, which would be hear, hear. I mean, I could not agree more with the statement made and the timeliness of it. I would say, I don't know what to attribute it to. I know that it's probably old by now to attribute it to the pandemic or something, but the lack of socialization that happened in that period leads people to come to, I think, just wild and reckless behavior. And one of those is the kind of criticism and critiques that are made at people in general. But, in this case, specifically to people who are providing the very services that people in the town are looking for. And I don't know what that's born of, like I said, but it certainly exists. I would say, as in my day job as a global director of support engineers across the globe, I would say it is so very important that everybody be and feel and act as part of a team. And it's important for the rest of the people in that company to see them the same way and to see the other departments the same way. So while I think the emphasis has been on DPW today because of comments made, although obviously Mr. Luckaditis came in representing others, I think this applies to all employees of the town. I have the utmost respect and have had for my whole tenure on people in this town, whether they're in the library or the DPW or police or fire or IT or the finance team or, any of the offices in town. I don't want to leave anybody out. They all provide a very important role whose lack of that role leaves a hole that somebody else has to cover. And when there's enough of them, it causes real stress, and that's where we are now. And so I would urge people in every walk, whether they're citizens, whether they're employees, whether they're department heads, whether they're board members, committee members, or whatever, to keep that in mind. I mean, I think the worst part of any employment, and I think this is probably universally true, is to go to work every day and feel you're not appreciated. I don't know of anything worse than that. So I would recommend that everybody really pay close attention to that. And people want to do their jobs, and they don't want to be treated better or worse than anybody. They want to be treated fairly, and they want to be treated within the context of what they're asked to do and what their role is. I think in this town, I don't know, because we've run the town very lean for so long, that there's no superfluous positions in this town. All the positions that exist because they fill a function and they fill it, and there's a need for that person, whoever fills that job, to be there. And the people who fill those positions are expected to do that, yes, and if there is criticism, that should be done on a totally separate level and at a personal level, not at public meetings and not in front of everybody. And I don't care whether the criticism comes from, whether it comes from the citizenry or this board or any other board. So I really would hope that people would really pay closer attention to the work that is done and all the hours that people do. And before you speak, I would check the context of what you're speaking about, because so much, as one of the previous speakers said, so much that what these people do is not obviously seen, and the work that they do. So, we really need to come to terms with that in order to take the next step. They say that in order to fix a problem, the first thing you have to do is recognize it. I think this goes a long way to recognize that, and I hope we do take the steps to correct it. And I'm sure that this board, as is mentioned in pay and everything, has their work cut out for them. It's not just the town manager. So we have our work as well, and I think collectively all have our work to do. But I do want to thank the town manager for her comments.
Thank you.
I have nothing at this time.
I'll offer a public comment briefly. There's a couple things. First, about a year and a half or so ago, I remember questioning a charge. It was one of the warrant articles. It was $10,000 requested by the cemetery commissioners, and it was for something. And I remember questioning what that was for and wanting to hold off on making a recommendation until I better understood what that was about. And the response back was, as I recall, was kind of strong. Like, how could you question something dealing with the cemetery? This is something that's, vitally important. I think in this role, number one, it is important to ask questions. Last week, we were provided by the town manager, as she corrected it tonight, with a number that said that the cemetery was allocated 3,900 and something hours a year. That was corrected today to 2,431. That's a big difference. There's a big difference between the two. And I think one kind of caused alarm. I think the correction does not cause as much alarm. But I think my comment on that is, on this board, part of our responsibility is to ask questions. And I say this often, that I wish we had the same freedom that the State House had, or the federal government has, which is to be able to have private conversations behind closed doors when you want to ask kind of probing questions. Unfortunately, in this environment, you can ask some, but when you want to talk to your colleagues, which these meetings, aside from public comments, are conversations, with each other, sometimes they happen in public meetings. The intent here, since I've been on this board, I've argued for more pay for staff. I voted against a union agreement because I didn't think it was enough money for staff. I remember a couple months ago being very vocal about how I think we need to give a correction. I think that we need to re-examine some of the positions that we have here in town and that we are funding. The structure that we have, and when we look at the last time we've had an organizational kind of evaluation, do we have positions in the right place? Are people doing the job that they were hired to do? Are they doing more than they were hired to do? I think when we look at numbers broadly, what we see, especially in public safety, is the amount of contact hours are extremely high. Everyone in this board included praises greatly the condition of our roads, and supported by the DPW. That certainly is their plan. It happens without much involvement from this board, and they have been quite phenomenal at executing it in all different areas. And so we need to increase the pay for employees. And I've also spoken to the town manager for years about the need to do a climate survey, to take the temperature around the town, that can be a stepping stone to improving the work culture. I believe that our work culture needs a lot of areas of opportunity, and the areas that the town manager highlighted last week, specifically, the employee recognition items, are top of the list. That a work culture, especially now, it's more than just, do you come to work, perform a task, get paid for it? It's, do you like your colleagues? Do you feel supported by your management? Is there a track for you to follow to be able to have some kind of career progression? I've personally had this conversation with the town manager, with the DPW director, with the chief of police, about career tracks for personnel and making sure that there's opportunities for advancement. It sounds as if many of us want the same things and we're saying the same things. Something that a good friend of mine, Jack Rabbit, says, it's often about energy. That when you have these things, you need energy to be able to get it from where you are to where you need it to be at. And while we have all these ideas, what we also have to be mindful of is being positive and encouraging enough to make this role seem exciting or enticing for other people. One of the things that's on our agenda tonight is a workshop, or discussion of a workshop, of what makes Lunenburg a great place to live, work, and volunteer. And what that is we need, in my view, we need to kind of shift our lens a bit when it comes to how we agree to disagree, how government progresses, that we need to make sure that discourse is encouraged, that discourse happens, but that we do it in a way that's civil and inviting. And it affects us in many different areas. I appreciate all the comments that were made tonight. I think it's always good when we have staff that appear before us and vocalize concerns. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. No one got into this role because of I. We all got here because of we and wanting to help the community. So all of the comments that I've heard tonight, including from residents, who felt dismayed at the comments the question that I asked last week, I will say I understand. I do understand, and I do understand your concern, and I do appreciate the members of the public who've called me. I think the day after my last meeting, I took the day off, but I had there were a lot of phone calls. So I just want to say I appreciate all the calls, I appreciate the comments, and they don't fall on deaf ears. Selectman Emke or Selectman Nuzzolo, do either of you wish to make a public comment this evening?
Yeah, just briefly, I want to add my thanks as well to the town manager for going to the DPW, getting their feedback firsthand and sharing it with everyone tonight. I think this is a step in the right direction, getting it out there. People need to feel appreciated. They should not feel like they are taken for granted at any point in time. And I think when things are working, it's very easy to just take people for granted. What people don't know is how stretched people are. We all know now how shorthanded we are, how many departments are working shorthanded, and people are doing much more than they should have to, and doing more with less, and that speaks to their pride and integrity in their work. In addition to the appreciation, I think, that doesn't, someone feeling appreciated doesn't negate their need to work a second job to live in town. So that's another issue, which has come up time and again in the recent weeks, the pay. And I think that is going to be a real challenge, but it's one that we all know we have to address. And we just, we'll have to all work together to find a solution. So again, just thank you to the town manager and to all the town employees. My appreciation for all they do, and hopefully we can get this thing moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so I also just want to say thank you to the town manager for her moving statement and for the work that she's doing. And I really want to thank everyone else who came in and provided a public comment tonight. I think it's so important that as a board, we hear from the people we employ, and also as the community at large. It's so important to hear from the people who show up every single day to work for us and to serve us, to fix our issues, so that we can hear what their issues and concerns are, because we owe it to them to help make their work lives easier. So thank you, everyone. I think this was a great public comment.
If I could just add something at this point, in addition to thanking the town manager for her statement, but I am one to observe at times all the negativity on social media, on the various town boards and all, and every once in a while, I'm pleased to read when members of the public acknowledge what members of the DPW or the police, how they responded to something and took that extra step. I've got to believe that that helps morale, and in terms of the public expressing gratitude for what the town employees are doing. There's still a lot of negativity out in that universe, for sure, but every once in a while there's a bright spot. And I do follow those. What's going on in that sphere, or in those spheres, as negative as it can be and unproductive as it can be, still matters, because it's a pulse. It's indicative of what people are thinking, and what's perception becomes reality. So it is nice to see positive comments once in a while. or anecdotes where people will provide specifics about how an encounter they had with the police or the fire or the DPW. So keep those coming. No.
All right. Any announcements this evening?
Yes. So for meetings, events, and other announcements, the Lunenburg Business Association has moved the Trunk or Treat event until October 29th. The event hours are 12 to 3 p.m., and that's still going to be at the Lunenburg High School upper parking lot. And registration for the event is required, and that can be found on the website and social media. Halloween trick-or-treating will be Tuesday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. Yard waste days are every Saturday until November 18th. The hours are 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Youngs Road. The Planning Board will hold their public hearing for the Agricultural Commission and Planning Board special town meeting articles on Monday, October 30th at 6 p.m. in this meeting room. And the special town meeting is November 14th at 7 p.m. at the middle school, high school auditorium. And at the chair's suggestion a few meetings ago, to put employee highlights at this section of the meeting instead of towards the end. I'll go over a couple employee highlights, but I do want to thank again all the employees of the town. And my public comment tonight mostly centered on the DPW, but that, like I said, is across the board. I think all our employees care about this town, and they all deserve recognition. From the fire department, we are pleased to report career firefighter Jenny Smith has passed her certification exam as a paramedic. Jenny joined the department as a call firefighter in October of 2020 and was promoted to career firefighter EMT in July of 22. Jenny's paramedic training began in January of this year and was completed in September. This included nearly 2,000 hours of intensive classroom training, clinical rotations with various hospital units, and extensive field training time with active paramedic units. Training that our other recent career firefighters also took at various times. This brings the department to a total of 6 career and 5 on-call per diem firefighter paramedics. On a normal day, the department is now staffed with at least 1 and more often 2 paramedics on duty. The current roster includes, for career staff, Andrew Bolton, Melissa Buchanan, Austin Flagg, Carl Gambardella, Olivia Hayes, and Jenny Smith. For per diem, firefighter paramedics is Frank Byrne, Philip D. Etremont, Ronald Hyatt, Michael Lemoyne, and Tyler Pelkey. So congratulations to Jenny on achieving her paramedic license. From the police department received their accreditation from the Mass Police Accreditation Commission. The Lunenburg Police Department's efforts to earn accreditation were led by Accreditation Manager Sergeant John Moriali. Accreditation is a self-initiated, lengthy, and comprehensive evaluation process. Participating departments complete an internal self-review and an external assessment by MPAC experts. The process is a voluntary evaluation by which police departments strive to meet and maintain the top standards of law enforcement. It is considered the best measure for a police department to compare itself against the established best practices around the country and the region. So congratulations to the police department and everyone involved in all the hard work and a lot of effort that goes into that process. So commend them for doing that self-initiated process.
All right. Thank you. Communications from other boards. So this is going to come up later in the meeting, but part of our appointment policy is that we are to receive annual updates from the boards that we appoint. As we look at our agenda, and I'm just going to kind of jumping ahead right now, I am looking for the board to discuss now our meeting scheduled for November the 21st. So this would ordinarily be 2 days before Thanksgiving. I'm seeing if the board is in agreement to cancel that meeting and to reschedule it to the following Tuesday, which would be November the 28th. And then we could use the 28th as the opportunity for the boards, several boards, to provide their annual report and to review them. If they come in person, then they'll present it, but they can provide it in writing as well. So I'm looking for the members to discuss if we are okay getting rid of or canceling our meeting on the 21st and rescheduling it to the 28th.
Personally, I have no problem with either. I will say that probably on the 28th, I will probably need to participate remotely.
Okay? I think we're getting in that pattern.
Well, I mean, it's because of, it's not, I will be in town, but I will be needed at home at the point, so unless there's a change in surgery days, so.
Mr. Franco?
That works out well, because I was going to have to advise that I would be unable to attend the meeting as originally scheduled, so now I won't miss a meeting,
Okay.
so.
Selectman Imke
That's fine with me as well.
and Selectman Uzzolo?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it.
Okay. All right, so we will cancel the meeting for the 21st, look to reschedule it for the, I didn't ask you, town manager, how did
Yes,
that work for
that worked
you?
very well, thank you.
Okay. So we'll look to cancel our meeting on the 21st, and we'll reschedule it for the 28th. All right, going to appointments. We don't have any scheduled appointments, but we do have an appointment for the ratification of the town manager's appointment of the DPW driver/laborer, Mason Cooper.
Thank you. So tonight I'm asking the board to ratify my appointment of Mason Cooper as a DPW driver laborer. And let me tell you a little about his background. Mason currently works at Curtis Stump Grinding, where he does stump grinding, painting, and groundskeeping. He also owns his own landscaping company. Since he does not have his hoisting license and CDL license, we are hiring him as a driver laborer, and once he obtains those licenses, he would be eligible to be promoted to a heavy equipment operator. His references describe him as hardworking, and that he goes above and beyond, is reliable, and he shows pride and attention to detail in the work he does. He's excited to get started, and if ratified tonight, can start on Monday.
All right.
This would bring our vacancy at the DPW within the highway to one position remaining.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Through you to the town manager, you say if he fulfills the CDL that he'll be eligible. Is he interested in doing that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the town manager related to a request to ratify? If not, is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have one question.
Selectman Imke.
Do we know the timing of when he would obtain the CDL license? How long does that take? I have no idea.
I'd have to look in depends on when he could sign up for the courses. I know that.
So he hasn't started yet?
Correct.
Okay.
As I recall, I think the previous DPW director noted it's usually 6 months, is what I recall.
Right, but if timing of when it starts, I thought Selectman Emke was talking about when that would be concluded, so yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was in the midst of obtaining that license already, or if he
No.
hasn't started yet. Okay.
Okay. Any additional questions for the town manager? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to ratify the town manager's appointment of Mason Cooper to the position of DPW driver laborer.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Alonso.
Aye.
Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Mr. Nuzzolo.
Aye.
Is it Ms. or Mrs.?
It's Miss.
Okay. Miss Imke. And an aye for myself. All right. Okay. That is ratified, and so he will start on Monday. Excellent. That hopefully will help the workload down there. All right, to the town manager report, I think you have a couple items.
Yes, just vacancies and one other item. So the following is a list of vacancies on the board, committee, and commissions. The Architectural Preservation District Commission has 1 vacancy. The Cemetery Commission has 1 vacancy until the next annual town election. The Finance Committee has 2 vacancies. The Green Communities Committee has 1 regular member and 1 associate vacancy. The Open Space Committee has 1 member-at-large vacancy, and the Personnel Committee has 1 vacancy. Anyone interested in any of these positions can find the volunteer form on our website, complete it, and return it to the Select Board's office. If you have any questions on the roles and responsibilities, you can contact our office at 978-582-4130, extension 144. For employment opportunities with the town, we have the following positions: Assistant to the Sewer Business Manager, which is 19 hours a week, Assistant Town Accountant, 32 hours a week, Assistant Meal Site Manager, 19 and a half hours a week, Conservation Administrator, 36 hours a week, Facilities Superintendent, 40 hours a week, Finance Director, 40 hours a week, Heavy Equipment Operator, 40 hours a week, Land Use Director, 40 hours a week, Principal Assessor, 40 hours a week, and Videographer, which is about 2 to 10 hours a week. Information on these positions can be found on the website as well, and how to apply. One other update for the board is on 925 Mass Ave. In June, I applied for the Real Estate Services Technical Assistance Funding from Mass Development through the fiscal '24 round of the Community One Stop for Growth submission. I was notified that we were granted $25,000 from the Real Estate Services Technical Assistance Program to support our project. I will be working with the Real Estate Planning Department to create a scope for the project within the allocated $25,000. The original request was for conceptual plans for reuse for the property, a feasibility and marketing assessment, and assistance with drafting bid documents. Given that the funding will not cover the entirety of the original scope, we will work towards a scope that maximizes the technical expertise that we do not have in-house. Also, I received notification from the contractor hired by the EPA that they will begin work soon for the removal of the floor drain holding tank and the hydraulic lift inside the building. And once they start, that should only take 4 to 5 days to complete.
Excellent. All right.
And that's all.
All right, I kind of knew that you were getting that technical assistance grant, but mass development these days is more focused on urban areas and also areas that they've identified as being, targeted districts or their TDI program. So there's general aversion to helping towns by mass development, and they're the state's economic development arm. I made it no secret I work for them, but they, I'm not in agreement with the change in direction, but they have changed direction that they're, if you're not a city of like 30,000 plus, they're for the most part not interested. And I think that that's a disservice to many of our towns and cities that suffer as a result of that. But it's good that nonetheless Lunenburg still received some funding, but it does become a hardship. Greenfield, I mentioned I'm out in Greenfield a lot. Greenfield has a population of 2,000 more than us, but they're considered a city. And so they are eligible for a ton of money, and I mean a lot of money. I was in their nice brand new library when I was out there. There's a building that the state purchased private building the state purchased through Mass Development for $3 million right in the center of their town, a building that was only assessed at 1.5, mind you, and Mass Development is coordinating a $100 million project. It's just the amount of money that funnels into the cities. It's phenomenal, and our population is similar. It's just they're a city and we're not. So it's very crazy.
I'll just add that I was happy we received some funding.
Yeah.
Like, I would obviously have been pleased with the full amount requested, but.
Which was what? What was the full amount?
50,000.
Okay.
But I think this project, since it's in its inception, has been small incremental changes to get it to where we are today. So any progress is good progress, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. Mass Development doesn't watch these meetings, that's why I said that. All right.
They won't take away the money after
No,
tonight.
no, money's not going away.
Okay.
No. All right. Okay. Any other comments related to the town manager's report? All right. Old business, select board recommendations, votes, discussion on special town meeting warrant articles. This is going to stay here until special town meeting. Is there anything that we've already made our recommendations and voted on the warrant, but is there anything that any member would like to talk about? Seeing shaking heads, no. Okay.
Just a quick question. Do we
Yes.
ever add a required minimum height for the solar canopies? Because I remember that was something that we were talking about.
No.
I don't recall that.
I don't believe it was added.
Okay. 'Cause that was why we deferred it, right?
Could you
I
repeat?
think that was part of it, yes.
Okay. Never mind, just wondering.
Could make an amendment on the floor too. for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
so.
And that public hearing is on Monday, the 30th? For
This
the
coming
plan,
Monday.
you're right.
Okay.
All right, so review select board bylaws. So all of us kind of had as a little bit of homework to look at chapter 5, which is administrative government. This is records and minutes, police department rules and regulations, supervision of public property, inspection of public establishments, fiscal year disposal of personal property, and then the annual audit. So just without us even going into detail here, I know that the town manager wanted to take some time to review this. This policy, to my knowledge, precedes the town charter, as I recall. And so some duties like supervision of public property, use of town hall, those have been in part transferred to, right now the language says all public grounds, parks, buildings, and places of public resort owned by the town shall be under the supervision of the Board of Selectmen except as otherwise provided by statute. And the use of town hall may be granted by the selectmen at their discretion without pay therefore to any town organization or society for free public entertainment, lectures, and meeting. And we know that the charter has given these duties to the town manager, that the buildings are under the care and custody of the select board, but the decisions regarding their use falls to the town manager. So I'm noting this because I think the town manager wanted some time to review this and speak with council on changes, and I just wanted to confirm that you still need some more time.
Yep, I think your suggestion, at the beginning of December, I think we discussed.
Yep.
And I've already forwarded this on to town council to review with that deadline in mind.
Okay. So, town manager and I had talked outside of the meeting, and we had discussed having the conversation on this chapter in December. But is there anything else anyone wanted to talk about tonight?
I mean, a lot of these are outdated.
Yeah.
So 5.4, the inspection of public establishments. I certainly don't think that any individual select board member should have the right to go in and inspect some establishment. We have authorities to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be one, making police department rules. I mean, aside from the mention of the constable, again. So much of this, I'll wait for the town council and town manager review, but a lot of that seems to be antiquated, so.
Yeah. I think, I would imagine that we're going to repeal or request to repeal most of it.
Agree.
All right, anyone else want to talk about anything on this tonight? All right, so December, first meeting in December. Looking at chapter 305. So chapter 305 is remote participation policy. And it's pretty detailed, and it's our current policy. Now, we don't follow our current policy. We're currently following this, we follow it in part, but we're following really the state's policy. Because, the current policy says, it doesn't basically allow you to be home and sick, for the most part. So I would advise on chapter 305 that we kind of gear this up for repeal, but that we hold off to see what the state does. Because I would assume that we all like the current remote policy more than the previous remote policy that we implemented ourselves, and to see if the state makes permanent, because certainly it's going to be broader than what we already permit and allow.
I mean, I think we should discuss it in part. I wouldn't wholesale say I like the current one better. I think this one that we voted in 2012, because I remember being part of this, you know, acknowledge the fact that not everybody can make it and quorums being difficult, and if people are traveling on business, it makes it difficult. But just to not want to come in seems to be not a good reason. If you are out and you are sick and you don't want to infect everybody, fine, but just not to show up again. So there are pieces of this that I like. I think some of it, I think a blend between the two is probably the most appropriate, and we'd have to look at that, which one it is.
Yeah. You know, municipal building design has been just about fully remote.
Well, so is a lot of things. I mean, so is other ones. I think there's something that's missing when you do that. And, you know, again, I'll raise my hand and say maybe it's age and maybe I'm just old schooling all this. But, you know, I work remotely full-time, and it is not the same. I've been doing it for 15 years, and there is not the same in some regards. Not every meeting needs to be in person, but there are a lot of meetings where the dynamic of meeting people in person and the energy that does it and the ability to share ideas is very different, and I think in many cases much more positive than you can achieve remotely. I think there's too many distractions remotely. Your attention can be diverted. Not that it happens to everybody, but it's just more available for that. And then not to speak of the fact that, you know, if you plan it remotely and then there's, you know, something that happens with your, you know, your internet goes down for some reason and you can't do it, then you're really scrambling. I mean, I think it's a good tool to have. I don't think it's a crutch that we have to really lean on as hard as we've been doing. That, my personal opinion.
Anyone have any other thoughts?
I do. You know me, I'm all about the blended solution, right? So I agree that there's some sort of, you know, blend here. We also need to keep in mind on the other side of this, and I'm a little bit more on the age spectrum toward Tom than so. If it is an age thing, I do, to that extent.
You're closer to Tom's age than you are to mine?
Oh, yeah, I'm not that different from Tom, so yes. So, there's that, but we also need to be keeping in mind making it easier for people to be on boards and volunteer in the town and remove obstacles to that. Not, you know, again, not participating remotely frivolously, but if participation in person is difficult because somebody would like to be on a board, but their work will not allow them to be there in person all the time, you know, et cetera. We need to be mindful that we're having issues getting people to serve on boards and want to remove obstacles there. So that should be kept in mind as this is drafted.
Yeah, I have some thoughts too, but Selectman Imke or Selectman Nuzzolo?
Yeah, so I read through it. I think it's honestly a pretty good policy from what I read. You know, like Tom said, it establishes legitimate reasons for why someone can participate remotely, not just because you just didn't feel like it one day. It's also, to what Lou just said, it's more inclusive. It does allow more people to participate and to participate more often, potentially. The only potential issue I see is the in-person quorum requirement, but at the same time, I don't really know that I think that should change. So.
Selectman Imke?
Yeah, I think I'm part of the old person group too. I think in person it should be the first, you know, choice. I think remote is a great option when needed, not as a default or just a matter of convenience. There was, regarding the quorum, in-person quorum, I didn't quite understand. See, it was 305-4. Point B, the quorum of the town board, including the chair or the person authorized to chair the meeting, shall be physically present at the meeting locations. I didn't really understand that, but the way I read that is if the chair, the person acting as chair, isn't at the physical location, then nobody can be remote,
Right.
including the chair, which, I don't know, that just doesn't seem, I don't know why the chair is singled out. And I think, I don't know, I read this afternoon, there may be some other subtle, language questions I have, but I think that we do need some remote participation, at least as an option when needed. Especially if it's not there, you could not have a quorum at all for some committees.
So is that part about the chair being in person, just requiring whoever is chairing the meeting to be in person and not remote?
Yes, that was the intention, and I would
It makes a lot of
concur.
sense to me, because
It
obviously
doesn't.
whoever's chairing the meeting and recognizing people for public comment, they need to see who's in the audience, so, that makes a lot of sense.
But there are committees that function fully remote.
Well, sure, but in that case, the entire audience is going to be on Zoom, so you can see them all. Like you and I right now, we can't see who's sitting in front of the board. So if we were to be chairing it, there's no way to see who's in the public and, wants to be recognized for a public comment or whatever. So I understand that.
And it's still murky to me. I mean, the chair could be remote and somebody on the committee or board would be at the physical location.
That's true. I think it just adds like another.
I don't think you need to call out chair or person authorized to chair.
Sure, but I can understand how it adds like another requirement to make the meeting logistically a little more complex, which, we might not want.
I just think the language needs to be cleaned up.
I'm sorry. All right, thank you. So I had a little bit of a hard time hearing some of that, just, that's not you or the equipment, it's just me.
It's the old person group.
So the way I'm reading B, and tell me if this was the intent, because you were there at the time that this was put together, it says, or the person authorized to chair. So theoretically, let's just say in this current makeup of the board, Michael Ray had to participate remotely, but we had me, Tom, and one of you two here. I would think that that meeting could go forward because the vice chair is authorized to chair.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And could it not go also down to the level of clerk, since the clerk is?
Well, if the chair is remote, the very first part of the meeting could be the chair authorizing somebody who's present to act as the chair. So there's no way, it really doesn't preclude anything.
Okay.
So it just says you can't run the meeting as a remote attendee. You can't run the meeting. That's all it says. So you got to designate somebody who's there to run the meeting.
Okay.
For the reasons that Mr. Nuzzolo said, is that, you can't see the audience members. You want to control people in a blended meeting where there's some in-person and some remote.
Okay.
So I don't know if my perspective is because of age, but we'll go with that.
I mean, you're from a different generation, for crying out
I'm a
loud.
millennial. I am. I'm very proud to be a millennial too. What I would argue is, I can think of being on the Municipal Building Design Committee. We have one member specifically who, she offers a lot of value to the meetings. I think, we're better served by her being there, but she can't coordinate childcare in the evenings. And so so if we're in person, she really has a hard time attending. And so like looking at it from that lens, and we think about the typical, I don't think we have a survey out of the average age that sits on boards that volunteer. But I don't think we're capturing a lot of parents. And I'm sure it's because they have other obligations and duties, a lot of stuff going on. Many people now commuting to Boston, you're in a car for an hour a day. There's a lot of reasons why people do not participate in local government. But I think that the requirement to be present is a barrier. And I also think that not everyone who's disabled in a wheelchair or people have mobility issues, maybe they don't consider themselves disabled. I mean, one of the things I recognize is the hardest part of aging is the loss of ability to do the things you used to be able to do. that becomes really challenging for people to accept that when they're at that point where they can't do as many things as they used to do. But there's a lot of stuff that happens before you get to that point, right? Where people might have mobility issues. It might be, today, tomorrow. Not everyone's walking up these stairs. We don't provide, all of our buildings are not ADA accessible, or at least the way that they're ADA accessible is not always keeping with the dignity that I think the law expects and that we would expect. So I think there's many reasons why people wouldn't want to come to the second floor of Town Hall for a meeting. And if we can eliminate those barriers and help them do it from home, then I'm all for it. And then I think there's also a secondary benefit, which is staff. I mean, staff work all day and then, come to our meetings at night. And sometimes, if we have more remote meetings, they'll go home. And it makes it easier for them to do the laundry and make dinner and other things. So I'm a big fan of remote meetings and scrapping it all together, but I can certainly read a room. And I am in the minority on this one, so I'll vocalize the opinion, I'll get it out there, and then I'll walk away from it.
Mr. Chair, I just want to comment on one of your final points, because I wanted to clarify. So your final point about employees needing to be here, I think this remote participation mainly talks about board and committee members. I am absolutely for blended meetings when it comes to people attending who aren't the board. So I think it increases attendance for the public to be able to view and to ask questions, especially, people who either work at night or don't drive well at night or have other, requirements, but they can still participate from home. I think that is good. Your employee example is another great example. I don't think this precludes that. I think this really is applying to the committee members themselves. So, and the people who can't have childcare, I don't recall if it's in there as a reason, but it should be.
Yeah, it's not.
No, not having childcare is a valid reason that I just don't want to come, right?
Yeah.
So
I think there's a couple of specific things as we look at this policy, like as we're looking at 305-5B, that, we might want to think about adding in number 6 then, which would be childcare. And I think number 2, maybe we modify number 2 instead of personal disability or mobility concerns, that we kind of loosen that up a little bit, so that, future members, aren't holding people to the letter, and instead keeping with the spirit of the intent. And those are the only 2 biggies that I see that I think we're going to agree to. But we can also come back to this.
yeah, I would ask
We
if,
don't have to do this today.
Mr. Chair, if we can, through you again, if we can get from the town manager the current state law that was passed during the pandemic that allowed this, if we can read what that allows, just so we can compare, because again, I think that there are some things in there that I think would be appropriate to keep, and I'd like to just get, instead of rewording everything, which I
Okay.
hate to do.
All right. So we will plan to discuss this on the first meeting in December, but before we switch off, are there any other points to make on this? I recall when I first joined the board, I was still in the Army, I was getting ready to retire, I don't think this board, but the planning board, and I did have to make use of the policy once. And I was in a situation similar to Caesar, and it was very helpful, although it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if this was mentioned when we talked about, senior citizens, driving at night and it talks about personal disability or personal illness, but, some people care for their, another family member at home and can't leave them home alone.
Yeah,
They
being a
have to be-
caregiver,
Right,
absolutely.
being a caregiver, not just childcare, so
Right.
caring for
I was thinking
for
about
another
that too.
person in their household.
So it should be written more broadly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
To capture all those different living situations. Yeah. I have to say, I highly doubt someone's looking at our policies before they're filling out a volunteer application. But it's good, I think.
Or
I
after.
But it's good, I think it's good for, word spreads, and I think once you start once we penetrate into the the parent group, and they start, and with all the stuff they have going on, that they volunteer on something that's a non-school related board. And if it's easy for them to participate and they can make a valuable contribution, I think, it just takes one or two people. And then we can, then word spreads, and, then it becomes a different conversation. All right, so we will make that comparison. If any member has anything specific you'd like to modify here, just submit them to the town manager or Elaine, and we'll get them into the drive for the first meeting in December. All right, anything else on these two policies? No? All right, disposition of town properties. So in our Google Drive, we have a folder titled Properties or something along those lines. Let me get to it. Get out of 2023 meetings.
Town properties.
Town properties. And then if we go to the PDF, we were looking at the Whalum area.
Town properties or select board owned properties?
Town properties.
Okay.
And then town properties PDF.
Yeah.
All right, and so this was, we were talking about Whalum area, individual members. We weren't going to do a coordinated event on a Saturday. We're just all going to kind of run out and take a look at what's there so we can have a conversation about it. So I just want to check in. I know, Caesar, you're away. Selectman Imke, have you had the opportunity to do that before you went away?
No.
Okay. Then, if I may suggest to the board that we pick this up at another time.
I will say if the weather would cooperate and it wouldn't rain every freaking weekend, it might be helpful, because especially this time of year now, it gets dark, so the only time I have is really in the weekends.
Okay.
And it's been crazy with the weather all the time.
All right. There's no pressing thing behind this. This is a nice to do, not a need to do. And so we can always come back. All right. We received, going along the agenda, any other comments before we keep going? Current business. We received a email over the last week or so, and this was with regard to let me get back into the folder here for tonight. This is with regard to a request being made of the board for a certificate of commendation for an Immigrant Entrepreneur Award, and this is for Jorge Marzuco Rosas. So let me see, going back to the drive here, what notes we have in here. All right, so I'm just going to read, if that's okay, to help inform the public of what the request is to us. So, all right. So Jorge and his wife supply organically grown vegetables, flowers, and microgreens from their solar-powered farm in Lunenburg to neighborhoods in Brighton, Medford, Cambridge, and Somerville. White Mart's Farm is a strong advocate at the Brighton Farmers Market for healthy food options. Close to home in Lunenburg, Jorge Rojas or Rosas serves the community via a CSA Community Supported Agriculture Program and local farm-to-table restaurants. Produce is also supplied to the New Entry Food Hub, a program of Tufts University that connects food access initiatives in Greater Boston with local farms. Rosas is an active advocate of the importance of cultivating a new generation of farmers, particularly within the Hispanic community, where he helps workforce development organizations by sharing his experience as a migrant supporting local food systems. So what the request is tonight is we have a request coming from the Immigrant Learning Center in Malden, and they're asking us to provide a citation for Outstanding Immigrant Business Founder in our community. He's been nominated, White Mart's Farm has been nominated to receive the 10th Annual Barry M. Portnoy Immigrant Entrepreneur Award, and that's going to take place on Wednesday, November the 8th. And this is going to be at the Royal Sonesta in Cambridge. So the award benefits include a networking reception, dinner, and award ceremony. The organization, again, Immigrant Learning Center, will present the entrepreneurs with our citation during the ceremony, and one outstanding immigrant entrepreneur will be awarded in each of the 4 categories: business growth, neighborhood business, technology business, and technology business and life science business. So that was business growth, neighborhood business, technology business, and life science business. And so the request for us tonight is if we will issue a citation in recognition of the outstanding contribution that White Marts has made to the town of Lunenburg and overall Massachusetts economic well-being. So, again, I think everyone here has already read this, so this is mostly me just informing the public of what's being asked of us. Any conversation tonight on this matter? Or is there a suggestion one way or the other?
I mean, I'm in support of it. I'm not sure how we necessarily craft this into a motion, but if you're looking for that.
I will make the motion if we're in support of it, because I'll just read what we've prepared.
I'm in support of it.
All right. We're all in support? All right. I move to issue a certificate of commendation to Jorge Marzuka Rojas on behalf of the Lunenburg Select Board for Outstanding Immigrant Business Founder and nominee for the 2023 Barry Portnoy Immigrant Entrepreneur Award in recognition of the outstanding contribution that his business has made to the town of Lunenburg and Massachusetts economic well-being.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? As many as are in favor, please say aye. This is a roll call vote. Mr. Alonso.
Aye.
Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Imke.
Aye.
Selectman Nuzolo.
Aye.
All right, and aye for myself. All right. My question for you is, should we, I know, since we don't have 2 members here, should we rearrange the signature block so that way we don't have blank spaces?
We could, or we could send it through DocuSign. It was just, and then, yeah.
I don't know if
We can
want to do
rearrange
this
it.
through doc.
Yeah.
So what my request is we have every member of the board's name is specifically spelled out, and there's a line for every member. And so my request is if we should, Selectman Imke, will you be back this week?
I may be able to, I may be able to be there Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday.
And I think we need to get this out the door by
That should be safe.
In a week.
Says
Isn't there a
October
legal
31st.
way you can do sign, the S/signature
What's
for
that?
someone?
Say again?
A legal way you can sign for someone,
All right.
but we
So-
can rearrange it.
Yeah, I think it may, what I'm saying, my thought is we can give it as is, but we may want to just have the people who are able to sign.
I mean,
Since I'm not gonna be able to make it, that's totally fine with me.
I've been practicing Caesar signature, so I think I can do it, you know?
Yeah, you guys, if you want, go ahead.
Yeah,
You
I mean-
have my permission to forge my signature.
I mean, Visa hasn't turned my signature for his down either yet, so.
All right. So if we can make that modification, and then we'll sign.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So we'll make
So,
that,
I want
can
to
we
thank,
come in to sign, or?
yeah, we'll need to come in to sign by Monday. So
Okay.
if it can be available tomorrow, that gives us the rest of this week and then Monday as well.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Rosas for the nomination and wish him continued success with my White Mars Farms.
Second.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All right. So for the, going down to current business, I've already introduced this in the public comment, but I wanted to introduce it here. So after the last meeting, I thought a bit more, and then after going to another cemetery meeting, cemetery commission meeting, I thought a bit more about, you had mentioned, Mr. Alonso, about a workshop and about the need to do a workshop. And so I was trying to phrase this in a way that becomes almost like a working conversation, that is not a one-time thing, but is something that we can continue to advance on. So the thought is, what makes Lunenburg a great place to live, work, and volunteer? And I'd like to have a workshop on this for us to really kind of dig into what needs to happen next to really tackle these questions. I think that the housing market kind of speaks for itself. Clearly, people are interested in moving and coming to Lunenburg. And so, I think that to me is pretty solid. But when it comes to volunteering, I mean, we all have to kind of step back and think about all the time that we've been volunteers and, is it fulfilling work? Do we enjoy it? And then people who also volunteer in town and who have stopped volunteering, was it an enjoyable experience? Were they able to contribute in the way that they thought they were going to be able to contribute in a meaningful kind of way? And then I think the same thing comes to our employees who live here. Who work here. So I think if we kind of tackle this holistically, and I think that the town manager is going to work on the work side of the house, but if we kind of focus on the live and volunteer side, I think that this is going to require engagement with economic development, with other organizations in town beyond ourselves. But I think it would be helpful, instead of kind of figuring it all out today, to call a workshop amongst ourselves, kind of lay out a groundwork of how we can pursue this. And I think what I'm looking for is a product that comes out of this. And the product that I think I have in mind, but of course, it's for discussion, but the product that I have in mind that comes out of this is cultural. It's, I think on the town manager's side, it's going to be, kind of really this holistic kind of human resource approach. We know that the role is new. The human resources role is a new role, and as that role further develops in terms of programming, other things, that we're going to see a lot more coming out of that office, coming out of the town manager when it relates to human resources, the programs that are available for staff. Similarly, I think we've already tackled taking another look at the appointment process, but it's also the elected officials and trying to get on a better page of what would make their experience more successful. And how do we make it more appealing to other people? And so I think what we get out of this, again, is a product that the town manager has a full package, and on our side, to similarly have some kind of full package of something tangible that other boards, future boards, can fall back on, and that almost becomes culturally for us, mission, values, things that we're all working together toward. So that's my thought for a workshop.
Yeah, so I have two comments. The first thing is I have no problem with that, and I think that gives value to give somebody some of the soft issues, the non, salary or this or that issues to work here. For instance, if we look at work here, and live here, there's different, there are different perspectives, and I think it would be helpful to do that. So I'm supportive. The second thing is, when I said, let's have a workshop, my comment about the workshop was addressing the fact of the town manager's report last week about employment, that we have, money was identified, and it was talked about tonight in public comment. And insofar as we saw it, we heard the list, and we've been hearing the list of employment opportunities in town, that the need is urgent. And that's something this board, and maybe only this board and the finance committee, can really help the town manager with, help resolve, to come up with a solution to that short-term problem. Like, how do we address the money issue with salaries, and how much should it be adjusted, and who are our peer communities that we should compare ourselves to, et cetera, et cetera. That was what I had in mind, Mr. Chair, when I mentioned it last week. Again, I'm for the one you just said. I think it brings an added dimension, a different dimension. So I'd be for both of them.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this?
Other than to voice support
Okay.
for doing it, no.
All right. So looking at our calendar, I know this sounds crazy, but we're kind of halfway through the term. And so looking at our calendar, we are pretty booked for the rest for November. So this would likely be December is heavy on all of our annual renewals, but this would likely be a mid-December meeting. I think this would be the second meeting in December, would be the first opportunity in our calendar, and then the next opportunity would show up in January. And January is pretty wide open, except for the standard town manager things that happen in January. You like that little summary standard town manager thing? That take up all of your December to get ready for it. All right, we'll pursue that path. All right, we're cranking here. Approval of minutes for August the 22nd. I move to approve.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor, please say, this is going to be a roll call vote. Mr. Alonso.
Aye.
Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Imke.
Aye.
And Mr. Nuzolo.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. All right. We're going to do some warrants. We have a payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $212. Before we get this far, I should have announced earlier that homecoming has been rescheduled to this coming Saturday. So this coming Saturday. All right. Warrants. We have a payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $212,068.82. We have an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $337,279.25. And then we have a payroll warrant. School is back in session. We have a payroll warrant in the amount of $971,088.89. Any action items for the town manager? Committee reports.
Capital planning met last night. The town manager has collected from the department heads all the requests for not only this year, but the coming years. And we established our next 4 meetings, which will be beginning in November. And then we'll be getting presentations in those 4 meetings. The first one up will be the police, fire, and IT. Second will be the DPW. And the fourth will be facilities. The third one, we're hoping to be the schools, but we're waiting for their response. And then each of those meetings, of course, will be recorded. They won't be televised live, but they will be recorded, and they're all in the Ritter Building lower meeting floor. And they will be recorded on Zoom, and people can attend in person or on Zoom.
Okay.
There were about, just to give a recap, I believe there were in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 requests that totaled in the accumulated value of over $3 million. So that's what we'll be evaluating.
All right. Mr. Franco?
Yes, I'll do the short one first. Economic Development Committee will meet this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. in the Ritter Building. This is going to be some repeat from the second one is going to be some repeat from my public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Master plan met, when the heck did we meet? Last Thursday, I believe that was. And the big takeaway was really what's upcoming, which is, again, that public meeting at Smokestack Roasters, November 2nd, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., 39 Mass Ave, and also visit the dedicated web page, which is planlunenburg.org, and also the planning team will be setting up and attending 2 events coming up. One is the Shrieks and Creeks, which I believe is still October 27th, 6:30 to 9:30, so you can come there and find out what this is all about. And also the homecoming, which is the rescheduled homecoming, Saturday, October 28th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I think they're going to try to cover 2 locations in that same day. So at the beginning, over here on Memorial Drive, I believe, and then also at the game, I believe. That was what the talk was at the meeting. So I encourage people to come and get involved. The master plan is about planning what the town's going to look like over the next 10 to 15 years. The last master plan was 2002, the last time this process took place. And who better to participate in this than residents of the town? What do you want the town to look like? Your input should be heard.
All right.
Mr. Chair, if I want to just say that the FinCom meeting for this Thursday was canceled, and the next meeting will be right before the special town meeting on November 9th. That is when the next one will be. I meant to say that. Thank you.
Selectman Imke.
There was a school committee meeting last week. The recording, something was wrong with the audio. I don't know if it's microphones or whatnot, but, yeah, just nothing much to report from what I could hear. Just to let you know, there was a meeting last week, and the next one's, I believe, next Wednesday.
All right, Mr. Nuzolo.
Yeah, so the planning board met last night. There was a public hearing regarding the development on 225 Sunny Hill Road. And that development is a 3 single-family home development. So about 5 or 6 abutters showed up, and they all spoke in opposition to it. The discussion went on, if I had to estimate, for like an hour and a half or so. And some of the concerns that they raised included environmental impact, impact on wildlife, stormwater impact. A lot of them said that they already have issues with stormwater and flooding in the area. And a lot of them also spoke about suburbanization, which is something that we've talked about previously, right? So suburbanization, the belief that Lunenburg is a small and rural community, and that the number of developments that are going on is slowly destroying the community's character. So the development will be before the Conservation Commission on November 1st. And I'm also going to reiterate what Lou said, because it's so relevant. If you feel strongly about this issue or any other issue in town, attend the master plan public meeting and voice those opinions and allow them to be incorporated in the master plan process. So anyway, one more update that somehow I managed to not share with you all last week regarding the Route 70 bridge. And the update that I received is that the work on that bridge is going to be completed by the end of the month.
And it is open now.
It's open.
Yes.
There you go. I was going to say, I
Yes.
have no idea if it's ongoing or not. If it is, it's going to be done soon, but
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Caesar. There was a library trustees meeting last Thursday. I was not able to attend, and I did not get the update, so I will reach out to Harry, the chair, Harry Kubetz, the chair of the library trustees, and get that from him. Coming up next week, let's see, I have on Monday, municipal building, it's not next week. Is that already next week? No, that's the week after. Municipal Building Design Committee meets again on November the 6th at 6 p.m. We have a Finance Committee appointment committee meeting on the 7th, and that's at 6:15 prior to this meeting. And on the 1st, so I mentioned that there's this regional, the beginnings through Margaret Scarsdale of a regional economic kind of development / kind of community consortium group that she's working to get started. And so I was invited to an event. It's called Destination Groton, and this is coming up on the 1st. This is an invitation-only event, because I did ask for it to be broadened out to more than just me, so that way it's the rest of the board is invited to attend as well. But it right now is an audience of only 80 people. And there will be, so it starts at 7:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock on the 1st. And basically it's a tour of the Groton music facility that they have there. It's also some conversations. I know that Representative Trahan will be there. It will be, I think some of our key members of our delegation are going to be there. And the intent is to kind of have this roundtable conversation about how to bring economic support into this area of Massachusetts. I certainly wanted Josie Gilchrist to be invited to this as well. I think she'd be a great contributor to the conversation. So we'll see if we can broaden up the invitation here for this, because again, I received it, and I did follow up, and I was told it was invitation only, and somehow I made it to the list, but I don't think it's reasonable for me to only be the one invited to this, especially given that we don't have any FaceTime with Representative Trahan anyway. That would be good for, I think, us to get some. So that's coming up on the 1st, and I will update the board on how that goes. But good start, and again, we also had the regional meeting. I was not able to attend, I had a work issue, but that was last Friday. And again, Representative Scarsdale is looking to broaden that group out from the initial core people that she invited, so that way it's a little more inclusive of other members of the select board.
What was the time on that on November 1st? Just
7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Okay.
And it's called Destination Groton. So Groton is kind of one of the, and I mentioned this previously, but I'll be brief about it today. One of the things that Groton, I think, has done a really good job of, and I think it's something for us to emulate as best we can, is how they're able to tap into the skill sets of different parts of their population. I think the cultural council with like Dr. Chandler is one of them, where you have like people who are clearly gifted and talented, and being able to tap into some of those like unique skill sets that exist within the community. I think Groton was able to do that when it came to how they turn their community into the marketing of their community, and they've come up with this concept called Destination Groton, and there's even a website for it. Groton has a different history than us. They also have, 2 schools that former presidents go to. I mean, and that really well connected and wealthy people send their kids to. And so, so they do have different character than our community has, but they certainly are trying to be an anchor in the region and trying to promote all of us kind of being having a piece to play. So as they do their capital plan, or not capital plans, they do their strategic planning, they really want us to take a regional approach to doing this. Margaret does as well. I mentioned that before. Groton is going through their capital planning or steering committee process right now. And so it would be good for us to kind of team up with them to make sure that there's, something that came out of there, things that some communities offer that others don't, whether it's dairy, whether it's agricultural things. And so if we can just kind of be better partners with one another, especially given that the state's economic development arm is not very interested right now in smaller municipalities, I think it'll help position us better for the next 10 years or so. All right. More information to come on that.
Trivia, 10 members of the Roosevelt family attended Groton School, including FDR. So,
10 members.
10 members of the Groton,
Yeah, I knew FDR went there. Do you know how many presidents have gone to Groton?
I think it was really only FDR.
just him.
Yes,
Just
yes.
him.
But how many of their kids went there?
That's what, lots.
All right. That's all I have for committee reports. Do you have any, town manager?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right. Upcoming meeting schedule. We will be meeting on November the 7th. We have special town meeting coming up on the 7th as well. We will also be meeting with the village at Flat Hill. And so this is to discuss some of the drainage issues that have been happening up there. This is a meeting that we requested back in August, I believe it was. It's been rescheduled. This is the second rescheduling. So we are looking to meet with them. That should be a good meeting. So November the 7th, again, November the 14th is special town meeting. And then we will meet again on the 28th. So there will be a little bit of a lag in the month of November between a full select board meeting. So we will be a little administrative heavy probably on the 7th and the 28th. And members will need to come in between the two to sign warrants, just as an advisement. And we'll get those emails from Elaine. Any public comments this evening from the town manager?
No.
Any
Thank you.
public comments from the public? Any public comments from the board?
I do. Just 2 comments. First of all, taking off my what makes Lunenburg a great place to live and stretching it out into your comments, Mr. Chair, on the committee meetings and talking about Groton. If you have not been to the Groton Hill Music Center, I encourage you to go. To have something in North Central Mass that is world-class architecture, world-class soundstage with world-class artists playing there, it is an absolutely fantastic place. It really is a boon to not only Groton, where it exists, but for the whole region. Because to have something so accessible, I've been lucky enough to be there 3 times, and, you know, just fantastic. I've been to the small soundstage as well as the large concert hall, all of it so well done, and a tribute to everybody who was involved in that. So I wanted to comment on that. And secondly, because we're not meeting next week, I want to acknowledge, sadly, you know, the closing of, or the end of an era at Elena's Gourmet Grocery, which will close at the end of this month. I remember being in the audience. I wasn't on the Board of Selectmen. I think this was back in 2003. I was trying to remember with Elena when that was, but I think it was 2003 when they asked for the license then. And since then, those 20 years, it has been a real community center point for the town. It was a destination store to many people to come to Lunenburg. Community-minded organization, helped out so many different organizations that did fundraisers. It was a great place to get, you know, fine wines and baskets for the holidays and gourmet foods and everything. And what a welcoming atmosphere. Elena and her husband Paul are good friends of mine, and I want to acknowledge publicly the impact they had, certainly on myself and my wife, but also to the larger community, and it will be sad to see them go.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso.
Yes, thank you. A couple of things. Number one, I second the Groton Music Center. We have been there for one concert in the large hall, and that was phenomenal. As to Elena's, I did not know that they were closing, so thank you for that. I have one anecdote about that. I'm not a wine guy really, but my sister-in-law is, and about 20 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, yeah, I went in there looking for a particular kind of wine for my sister-in-law, and I would go in there just about only once a year, and every year when I went in there, she would remember what I came in for, even when I didn't. Yep. So, you know, I said, I need that same wine I got my sister-in-law last year, and she'd remember that. So, so that was nice. I'll have to go in there and specifically thank her and wish her well. So, beyond that, I just want to put out a public call. Let's not get complacent. We temporarily filled those 2 Board of Assessors positions. Let's not get complacent and take for granted the fact that those 2 members stood up. Both of them have indicated that they do not wish to stay on. When they came on, a condition of staying on was that they were not planning on staying on beyond next May. So we have to respect that, and maybe they'll have a change of heart, but that'll be for them to let us know. We need to respect those deadlines, so to speak, and so just want to not get complacent and put out the call and remind people that those positions will be opening up, but also more generally, that we need people in general on boards and committees around town. We need people to step up for appointed positions. We need people to step up and run for office. I'm going to go back to my old mantra, and I mean it. I'd rather live in a robust democracy where there's churn and people lose their seats. And I believe that every seat at every level should be contested every time, and I'm asking people to step forward and run.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments from the board this evening?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's 8:43. This could be a roll call vote. Mr. Alonso.
Aye.
Mr. Franco.
Aye.
Ms. Imke.
Aye.
Mr. Nuzolo.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Again, the time is 8:43. We are adjourned. To those at home, we will be joining you next on the 7th, again, the 7th of November. And please join us at the special town meeting on November the 14th. Make sure you're a yes vote to Article number 4. But be there at November 14th special town meeting, and we look forward to seeing you there.